Bringing the vision into a mission. This is Global Mission of Peace with the GoldFish Report. I am Radagast, and I am joined by our media outreach, Louisa.
Hello, everyone.
And the wonder from down under, Sanjay.
G'day, g'day, g'day.
Our European correspondent, Steve.
Hi there, everybody. Hi there.
And to make the ambassador blush, the keen mind and the warm heart of the ambassador, the voice of the dragon family.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome.
Well, hello, everybody. And what we're going to talk about today is we have a lot of updates to give everybody. We're going to start out with some updates. As many people know who watch the GoldFish reports, this was really born out from the ambassador's mission of a war on ignorance and financial tyranny. And this mission is called the Global Mission of Peace. And you can go to the globalmissionofpeace.com and visit our website there. And you can understand and explain, it'll explain all about the mission and all about the goals and all about the voice of the dragon. And all the projects that we are working on, the humanitarian projects. And also, we also have education, which is I guess the war on ignorance, the way that we deal with that is through education. And we have another website which is linked through the Global Mission of Peace, and it's called CBC Global Education. And all these links are going to be posted in the description that accompanies this video on the YouTube link. And the CBC Global Education is really the center for much of this project, because this is really where we're helping people to learn how to present projects, how to prepare business plans, how to, even in some cases, we're really sharing information on building businesses. This is for the entrepreneurs who are trying to really make a difference in the world through humanitarian projects. And what you're going to find there, there will be a link to our schedule for when all of these different, they're basically webinars that we hold, and the webinars, all of these are done through all the education is done through webinars and online webinars. Some of them are different modules, so there could be a series of them to provide education and information that you're requesting that you want. And that's another thing that we want to reach out to all of our viewers and ask, who do you want to see us talk to and interview? Who is it that you would like the ambassador to have a conversation with and to find more, get in-depth information about how the world is working and how to connect all of the dots. And we also want to announce that we are going to have Kev Baker visit us again on the show on Wednesday. In addition to Friday's show, we're going to have Rob Potter from prepareforchange.com. And so we're going to have a great week this week, and what we're going to start out with is really we're going to there's an awful lot of things going on in the news today, and very specifically we have been asking people to kind of stand by with regard to the Syrian refugee crisis and what we can do, what each of us personally can do to reach out and try to help these people. And we are running into some unexpected delays because there are changes happening all of the time. So there's trains that are being halted, so they're not bringing some of the refugees in, and then some areas where some refugees are, there's an awful lot of violence going on. So there's a lot of things that are happening that are not expected, and of course there's a lot of things happening that are not being reported on the mainstream media. So we're going to talk about all of these things. We're going to also talk about what happened in Mecca, and what an incredible sign that is about the lightning strike and the crane crashing on all of the people, in addition to some other things that are in the news that are all pretty much related, and of course what has happened at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the bombing of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, sorry, to get used to that. So why don't we start out with Steve, why don't you give us a report on what's going on in Europe right now?
Hi there. Well, I'm here still in Dresden in Germany. Again, tonight I witnessed a huge demonstration in the city, which started in the evening. Last week there were over 10,000 people there. This week they were expecting more. It's a regular occurrence, but it's been bumped up mainly due to the refugee crisis at the moment. So things are warming up in Germany. There are protests in Hamburg. There are ethnic riots in Frankfurt. I read about demonstrations in Latvia. All across Europe, there seems to be unrest now, and it's increasing to a crescendo at some point. So that's the feeling here. Obviously, there's, let's say, dissatisfaction with the general situation in Europe, and I think this is partly part of it is just an outlet for the feelings here. So that's what's happening at the moment here.
What about with the aid that we are trying to work on and the groups that we're trying to ask for aid? Can you give us an update on what's happening with that?
We've been getting answers finally, because it's been very chaotic, as you can imagine. There have been tens of thousands of refugees coming across the border. They've basically been telling us they don't want us to send any more clothes, because basically people have been so generous in the areas. They've been donating clothes, teddy bears, things, children's toys, everything they can possibly imagine, because there has been an outpouring of generosity from the people generally. So they don't know what to do with it. They can't store it. It's too expensive for them to store it. So basically the message has been, please send us money so we can buy medicines, necessities, wherever it's needed. And now, let me add to what I've just said, is that now the latest is Hungary has hermetically sealed the border to Serbia. So that means now there are no more refugees coming through. Germany has now implemented, has reneged on its Schengen agreement, which basically was the open border to Europe. So there are 3-hour delays at the borders on the Autobahn between Austria and Czechoslovakia and Germany, because they're checking every single vehicle that goes through for refugees. So the borders are being shut. Europe's gone back, some people have said back 20 years in its thinking. So things are happening very rapidly here. I can't remember the last time. I've been in Europe 25 years. I can't think of the last time things have happened this rapidly.
Thanks for that update. And I'd like to send it over to the ambassador.
No, the problem is that Europe has answered this refugee crisis as I was expecting, with a militant way. So basically, they're putting now the navy on the boats, and they're putting, military at the borders, and so the situation is, as expected, a planned, unrest situation in Europe, so that the crisis can escalate. And also, you see that, for example, in Catalonia, which is wants to have independence, and also at the same time, capital there of Barcelona, they are demanding independence. You have portions of Europe that wants to be out of European Union, even out of their own countries, and want to be independent. You see that when you look at the media, for example. I was watching today a video of a fat man, Arabic man, looking like a little big baby, like having this like idol of Mary around him. It was almost looking like he wanted to, do something bad or wicked to this idol. And basically later, he has thrown it down and broke the thing, and then he's screaming Allahu Akbar. And in Europe, this is like a huge thing. It's do we want these people in Europe? Understand? And my personal opinion, I think that if you guys getting so probably insulted of breaking some little toy or some idol that people are worshiping, this goes back like to, go back far away in our evaluation where we, pray to objects. Instead of caring for what's happening with people. I mean, if this guy is so ignorant that he feels he needs to aggress on a statue, he probably is even more abusive to human beings. And this is the same thing we saw in Afghanistan when they blew up the big Buddha. This is, it's in their neighborhoods, it's in their own house. We cannot go out and tell people what they should do in their own house. If they don't, no one prays to this Buddha, no one believes in it, and no one goes there for it. If someone wants to blow it up, that's their business. But what was a funny thing, that was a major outcry when this idol was destroyed. But no one cared about all the, old Mongol ancestors that became Shia Muslims that lived in a region that was being slaughtered by the Taliban. So no one talked about that. They were all talking about, this blowing up of these idols. And so it seems to me that Europe and America, or the Western world, is more obsessed about worshipping objects, as always, than human lives. And the thing is, this way is that, this refugee crisis is organized and orchestrated, and that's what I wanted to talk about. Now, you see, Saudi Arabia is aggressing on many Muslim countries all around the world, including Syria and Yemen and other places. And, of course, they are, as I always used to say, like the shoe-shining boy of Israel and the United States. They just fund the unrests and sitting there, basically, and it doesn't do anything. Now God did the same thing they did to the Vatican, basically struck this thing and fall down on the people. And Mecca should be the holy and secret place, and a place where people can go without being damaged by anything. And basically God wants to tell them that now it's time for you people to repent before it's too late. And this sandstorm and terrible weather that's been in even protecting the Syrians from being bombarded by Australians and Canadians and other Europeans and Americans, basically has been halted by this bad weather. At the same time, Israel is, trying to stir up a new intifada and problems by bombing this Alaska mosque. And if people doesn't see the big picture, that this is the big Israel project being in full swing right now, creating a terrible scare tactics of Muslims, making it look like Israel is being slaughtered by this crazy, infidel, crazy people, and we need to do a crusade on them to help them. At the same time, you import all this psychology of wounded people that you have no clue even who they are. They might even be stooges from ISIS and other groups that is sent into Europe to create menace. And of course, it will start happening too. And even if it's a false flag, but it will be blamed on these people. And the hate and the unrest in Europe will be escalating to a full swing thing. Now, we should forget that we had to have a bigger collapse financially already than we had before the Second World War, without anyone even paying attention to it. So it looks to me like it's an old story being repeated again. It's like a repeat here, that basically we're seeing a preparation for Third World War that would never be sanctioned unless we create so much unrest in Europe and in America that people will say that we have to go out to war to do something. Now I am again reaching out to all the people, and including the cabal and others that's behind these things, to basically cease and desist immediately with these actions, follow the plan of a Jubilee, repent and be repurposed. Don't continue your aggression of the innocent public. Okay? If you will continue, you will be doomed. Okay? This is a warning from the Creator. Okay? God has sent the signs to you over and over again. Okay? And now I'm saying to people, does it exist a God? Now you feel pain, you feel hunger, you feel love. Okay? But can you touch it? You can't. But is these feelings not real? Yes, they are, as well as God. So now pay attention to what I'm saying, that God is giving all the signs to you people to cease and desist and liberate humanity. If you don't do it, you will be doomed. Okay? So this is very, very important. I'm saying that out of love and compassion to you guys. Okay? Please cease and desist before it's too late. And that includes all politicians in the United States and America. Cease, desist, stop this nonsense, stop being so bloody primitive, stop being so bloody ignorant. You are the biggest goldfishes on the planet. Now it's important for you people to repent, remit and surrender, and do what is right. we have a global jubilee meeting. I'm expecting the Pope to take charge and do the right thing. People are saying, oh, ambassador is so kind and promoting the Pope. I'm not promoting anyone. I'm reaching out to his heart and his mind and his senses to do what God wants him to do. Okay, and that is to all the people coming to the Jubilee meeting. All this old cabinet that was signed, depopulation, all the other different type of things. We have the solution to save humanity. Be the heroes that shift and change to be known to the history of the planet, instead of to being known as the people that killed 70% of the human population. Now we have also another situation with all the upcoming situations that with in danger for our planet. Again, I hope that Vladimir Putin and other people will continue to save humanity, and I want you others to follow in his footstep and do the right thing too. Okay? And now people say, oh, the ambassador is supporting Putin. Yes, I support people that do the right thing. Okay? So the thing is this way, we need more leaders like him on the planet. So when you go back now, politicians of Europe and America, and look yourself in the mirror and look at your pathetic faces and your miserable souls, and consider how can we do something to shift and change so we can be known in the history of humanity for something else than stupid comments like Sarah Palin, or a chihuahua like Donald Trump, okay? Or some other inbreeds like Bush and others. Now I think the important thing here is to make sure to do the right thing for humanity. And this is not a, me coming here with warnings. This is a warning from the Creator. And if, George Bush, who supposedly looked into the soul of Putin and saw him, and, and the same thing, he claims to be a reborn Christian, maybe it's time that you should follow the teachings of Jesus. Okay, stop insulting him by calling yourself a Christian. Okay, and now this is also important. I would like to see George Bush family and the Bushes and the Clintons and the Obamas and all these other hypocrites to actually do something. They have stole all this money during their times as politicians. Why don't they do something to help the crisis that they have created on the planet? We are always blaming this terrible ISIS and Al-Qaeda, even like when it comes to Al-Qaeda, it's more a myth than anything else. Okay? So probably, and this is not only my own words, I have never seen a sign really for a real Al-Qaeda movement during my whole working career, and I agree with Hamid Karzai that it's a myth. Like this group, the Khorasan, that supposedly was much worse than ISIS. Okay? And I understand that particular joke from you people in the Kabbalah when you put that name out. But maybe you should be worried about the Khorasan. Maybe you should be worried what's going to come from the East. Now is the time to do the right thing. We love the people of Israel, Jews and Arabs and Christians alike. And they want peace and they need peace. Okay? And they want all of them to flourish together. Now it's time for these criminal people in the governments who only feed some people's fear and anger and hate to basically surrender. I know that some people don't believe in hell, but I can tell you one thing, that we even have attorneys there. So make sure that we're going to do the right thing for humanity. Okay? And that's my outreach today in relation to a crisis around the world. And I really hope and pray that someone pay attention. So please share this video so that it goes viral, so maybe someone will pay attention to this. I'm not a person that sits here and living in Disneyland and like many others and saying that, we're gonna go there, we're gonna do that, we're gonna start this, we're gonna start that. No. We all humans have a power to decide between good and evil. And we can overcome all these things. Many people wonder why is Luis always laughing and laughing and laughing before the program. It's because I usually sing the "We Shall All Overcome" that song. I don't know how, if that's the name of the song, but I usually mimicking that in the beginning, and it has become like a traditional joke. And But the thing is this way, I really pray that we shall all overcome. And the thing is this way, I think humanity can overcome everything if it puts its mind and will to it. So it's no lack of funds. It is no lack of will with some people. But it is a very big lack of will of the people that runs our nations. So maybe we should take back our nations by telling them that we had enough. And the police officers, and the military, and the so-called judges, and the legal system, and all these other people need to do their job and hold these criminals accountable. Okay? Because we can run around and hide in small fishes all the time as we want, and to pretend that we are fighting a symptom when we're really, in reality, just hunting a symptom. But now it's time to remove the sickness. And the sickness can be staying left here. It can continue to be in the body as long as it doesn't spread like a cancer. Okay? Now make sure to repurpose yourself before it's too late. Okay? And now I will give some other person some comments if they'd like to also do so. Thank you very much, and sorry for that I ranted on so long.
No, that was very good information. The ambassador always has very captivating information to share with all of us, and we do enjoy the rants. We don't call it a rant, but we do enjoy all the information that he has. And Radagast, I think you had some updates that you wanted to share with us on the situation over.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's a little bit of good news. I found it on two different places. One was on Veterans Today, and basically the headline is Syria. Germany and France break out of U.S. alliance against Russia. And so Germany, surprising, quits alliance with the United States, which wanted to prevent a participation of Russia in Syria. Defense Minister Ursula von der Leyen told Der Spiegel they welcome Russia's President Vladimir Putin's involvement in the fight against the extremist Islamic State. It is in the common interest to combat the IS, she said. And then it kind of goes on. But then there's also another one by RT, and it's from somebody in, let me see if I can find which Norwegian person it is. It says Norwegian newspaper Dagens, I can't read it, but laments that Europe has fallen into a postmodern stupor characterized by lack of leadership and political will, and that Russia needs to shake Europe's leaders out of this state in order to solve the Syrian conflict, which has resulted in an ongoing refugee crisis. And then, so basically in the article, this guy Matlery advises that instead of looking to the U.S. for leadership, European governments should take their lead from Russia's realistic political approach to the crisis, which provides support to the embattled Syrian president in fighting the Islamic State. Iran is also ready to support the peace effort, adds the author, while the U.S. and Saudi Arabia must also make their contributions. So the time has come for the West to accept that as a consequence of the peaceful regulation of the Syrian crisis, Assad will remain in power for some time. The most important task now is to reach peace and stability. However, the EU insists that Assad has to go. That's not too clever, insofar as Europe is not ready for military intervention in the conflict and therefore has no influence on the situation on the ground. Instead of demonstrating such unrealistic intransigence, advises Matlery, Europe needs to return to politics based on the principle of realism in order to bring peace and stability to the Middle East and put an end to the conflicts that have forced millions of people to flee Syria. So, and from two outlets, and I know there were more, those are only two that I found, but basically, big countries, and Germany being significant, and now the last one was Norwegian and supposedly France, but Germany's making the most noise as far as I know. They're just saying, no, Russia has the right idea. And by saying Russia has the right idea is to be breaking with U.S. policy. And I think that's pretty significant on the world stage.
Thanks for that update, Radagast. That's really important. And I think, Steve, you had a comment regarding the ambassador, what the ambassador was talking about, and I just have to, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yes, I have a few comments, if I may add some things. I'm basically in complete agreement with the ambassador. I think that There are signs. We're given signs all the time. We just choose not to see them. What happened after Pope Ratzinger, Benedict II, resigned? Lightning struck twice upon the dome of St. Peter's. That lightning doesn't strike twice, as we say in English. And, you know, I can't think hours after, and it was at a specific time. I won't get into the numerology right now, but it was that's a clear sign. I can't think of a clearer sign, and there are others if you choose to see them. That's my first point. My other point is I've been listening to Alex Collier. I don't know whether the audience is aware of him, whether you believe him or not, where he gets his information from, or who he's been talking to, the Andromedans, he said he's been talking to since for 20, 30 years now. The points that he has are very valid, and he says that this civilization is well over 300,000 years more advanced than ours. And they basically, you know, they long time ago left the pyramidal structure that we have here on this planet. And they look upon us with compassion because they see that we don't respect each other, we don't care about each other, we don't care about the planet, and that they weep when they look at us. And that's the point that the ambassador's making too, that you know, these politicians are not thinking of the good of the greater population. They're thinking of themselves. They're thinking of their bank accounts, their offshore bank accounts, their secret bank accounts, their support from private companies, whoever that's paying their bills. That's all they're thinking about. They're not thinking of why they have these positions, and these positions are of great responsibility. And I think at some point they will be held responsible for their actions. And I agree with the ambassador, and it was a very emotional talk that he gave just now, and I feel very strongly in support of this. And I think that the time is finished now. Each person has to look in the mirror to what's going to happen very shortly down the road. There are going to be changes very quickly, and they need to think what's going to happen after it's finished. At least if they can think at that, you know, about their own necks at this stage, that's what needs to happen.
Thanks, Steve. Sanjay, we haven't heard from Sanjay yet in front of the goldfish tank, and he's embodying our icon here. Sanjay.
Yes, I mean, what the ambassador said before, it came purely from the heart, as you can see, and it's definitely not a rant. And if it was a rant, then it's great, because his other rants happened to be the one he did against the Pope. And if you remember correctly, if you go back to a couple of GoldFish reports, he did say that Russia needs to step up and do stuff, and we can see that's happening. And also the EU need to wake up, and Germany and France being two of the major players in there, and part of the G7 are actually changing. So please keep doing those hot rants, as you call them, because we see some massive changes. What I see happening, the problem we've got is, I mean, okay, last night we had a change in Prime Minister in Australia, and no military was involved, nothing, just the politicians got together and just said, okay, you're no longer doing the job, you're going out, and a new one gets put in. But that's the policy the West has for itself, but not for the East. In the East, what they decided to do is do a military action, for example, in Iraq. Saddam Hussein was a Baptist, and he was a crazy person that was placed there by the West. And then they took him out thinking they're doing the good thing and telling the world that they're saving the world, and put a minority, right? And then that put oppression over the majority, and it keeps happening everywhere. The same thing happens over and over. In Syria now, Assad's doing what he was doing. They created all the problems, and the chemicals were removed to avert the situation. Then ISIS was arrived. Like, ISIS has basically become the new chemical weapon. We keep doing this from the West interfering in the East, that creates a tsunami of refugees. If we stop dealing with it for them and just be there as advisors, or if we've got to deal with it, do what Russia's going to do, is just fix the problem, not just meddle 10 years. Like, I mean, it's not something we need to do to run economies and this war propaganda and, as Steve calls it, fear porn. We need to really, like, I mean, there's a problem, let's fix it, right? Let's not waste years over it. Let's not get people killed over it. And we have losses on both sides. And yes, Australia is one of those aggressors with US. I hope they join Germany and France in saying, well, let's look at a holistic thing and getting Russia and China and other major forces involved in it, not just the Western force.
Thanks,
Also,
Sam.
I want to add something important here. We're talking about Australia and the changing of guard there, and we're talking about change of guard with many different countries. And also, in the same sense, it is the Jewish New Year, so I want to wish us, the greatest New Year to all the people of the Jewish faith, okay, and also the people of Israel. And when I was sitting and thinking about that with a change of guards, I think it's time to do a change of guard in Israel. This country deserves better than Benjamin Netanyahu. And it's the same thing I'm thinking about the Grand Ayatollah in Iran, who said that Israel are not supposed to exist, or whatever stories that was highlighted on him. And I'm wondering sometimes why these religious bigots like himself, have to come out with such an ignorant comment. And people say, look, Iran wants to destroy Israel or whatever. No, the Iranian people are good people. Most of them probably are atheists even. And, no one has an interest in Iran in reality to destroy Israel or America. Maybe it's a small population that is there and screaming and shouting when they're told to do so, okay? And if you want to bring forward a group of idiots, you can do that anywhere on the planet. It's like, and I think that, he also needs to think about something. Now people are going to say that the ambassador is aggressing on the Ayatollah, but the thing is this way. In reality, in the chapters of United Nations, it's stated, okay, that you give all authority, ultimate authority to the United Nations Security Council. So the Islamic Republic is a lie, it's a deceptive lie, and basically the Ayatollah is supposed to be the head between God and the people in their system. But he is not, because the greater person than him is the international community's United Nations Security Council. So basically, it's better that he will be as a religious advisor and move away from the politics from the country, okay, and allow the people to flourish where they want. And him to be a religious person, and he needs to re-educate himself a little bit about the religious scholarship, okay. For example, you don't aggress on people, you don't support and push violence and hate. In Islam, you only act in self-defense. And basically, in the fact of Israel has been provoking Iran and aggressing on Iran for very, very long time and used vicious terrorist attacks on Iran, okay? And Iran has been very patient, okay? But we don't need these inflammatory comments from the religious leadership that doesn't represent the voice of the land of the people. He do not represent the voice of Iran. And I think that Iranians and the Jewish population, you have a lot of Iranians in Iran, over 30,000. But it's a great love between the Israeli people and the Jewish people, Israeli people, in between them, if the politicians just leave them alone. And it's better that the Ayatollah becomes a religious leader to give his vision from the Quran to the people, instead of pretending to be a political leader, okay? Because the biggest problem we have in the world today is when religion mixes with politics, okay? And, it's not wrong. I think it's good to have a religious, value-based system, okay, in all nations, but not a religious country. Because religions in themselves are here to be an obstacle between men, okay? And I pray and hope that the people of Israel will stop attacking Alaska Mosque during this period of time. And I also pray to the brothers and sisters of Palestine to not be so easily provoked. Okay, it's God will protect Alaska Mosque and will protect the people of Palestine. But you guys need to protect yourself by not being so easily manipulated and angry. Okay, and this is, I think, what God wants to tell us, is to stop being such a religious bigots everywhere. You know, I saw a guy in America that made a machine gun, which were called the Crusader. Okay, and he was writing there something about shooting and killing with his hands or whatever, some verse from the Bible, and this is an anti-Muslim gun or whatever. I don't think that the Muslims cares if they use the gun to shoot someone what is written on it. But it shows that he is not much better than any ISIS person. You understand? This, you know, like low-level frequency aggression mentality that we have in Europe, in America, in Israel, in Iran, in North Korea, South Korea, wherever we go, okay, we have to stop with this nonsense. We have to stop. And I really reach out to the religious leaders of the world, okay, to stop dividing each other. Try to find what we have in common value-based system and cooperate with each other, work with each other, instead of always fighting. I don't believe that Jesus, okay, or Muhammad, or any other prophets, okay, or Moses for that matter, would sit and argue with the scripture of the Bible, of the Torah, of the Quran, with people about chapters and interpretations of the different chapters and so on and so on. They lived by example, and by their example, they created what became a huge movement with millions of followers. You know, and what we need to have today is the same type of leadership in our religious communities, in our political communities, where they become beacons. Okay? And rest assured, I'm not anti the Ayatollah. Okay? I'm not anti anyone. Okay? But I'm anti stupidity. Okay? So the thing is very, very important. Okay? Do what's right for the people. You know, I've been in many of these countries. I love the people. I love their ways of living. But, you know, the thing is this way. We can live together. We can love each other. We don't need to have all this hate and racism and divisions between us, or the Satan between us. Okay? So that's a very, very important thing that I wanted to mention, to pay attention to, especially during these times of religious holidays. Okay?
Thank you, Mr.
Very,
Ambassador.
very well said.
Yeah. I think Sanjay had a question. Sanjay, or a comment.
Well, not
comment.
a question, but just a comment. Basically echoing what the ambassador said, but at the same time we talked about the karma and the dust storm and the stuff, and the crane falling at Mecca, of all holiest places for the Muslim brothers. Let's not forget that Allah Ta'ala, God, Jesus, Krishna, whatever you want to call it, all have their rules. Now, sometimes we forget. We cannot aggress on other innocent people who are his children also, right? So Saudi Arabia, Yemen or Yemen, whatever you want to call them, are also your brothers. So please stop aggressing on them too, as the ambassador always says. Stop being ignorant, right? I hear my Muslim brothers say Muslim Brotherhood. So where is the brotherhood when you're actually shooting and killing each other? The soldiers in the front line start thinking about it, right? You're not spilling, like, it's not a crusade that you're going, okay, well, I'm spilling a Christian or a Jew blood. You're spilling another Muslim blood. It's not about religion, as Ambassador said. Let's take religion out of it. Before you shoot, think who you're shooting. Let's not shoot at all. Go hug the person. Put the bullets down, guns down, go hug the person, right? We'll fix all the problem. There will be no refugees, right? So it's, yes, all religious things need to be put aside, because Krishna was never a Vaishnav, right? Nor was Jesus ever a Christian, right? Allah wasn't Muslim either, right? We created human beings, men, created all these religions, and we weren't happy with just Christianity as one. We had to go create Protestants, Catholics, and all the other stuff. We weren't happy with Hinduism as just one thing. We had to go create all the divisions. So do you see, as the ambassador said, let's not divide, let's unite. And let's unite together, and let's get rid of Satan. When we unite, there's no place for Satan. There's no place for pain and suffering. It's us dividing, creating the pain and suffering.
You're right, Sanjay. And, you know, trying to keep up with the news, another report that's, of course, on the alternative media was kind of exposing what the mainstream media is not reporting. And it was showing scenes of rock throwing to people who are trying to host and help the refugees. It was scenes of, well, you know, the breaking the bottles, fighting, I mean, violence. There's lots of things that, you know, we don't really know what these pictures are. Some of them were pictures I couldn't validate that they were recent. They could have been pictures of gangs and fighting from other places. So we have to be very careful. We do want to try to go to the alternative media, because I think we pretty much know the mainstream media is biased and they're just promoting an agenda. It's hard to know what's really truth anymore with any of it. So we really have to use our discernment, and that's really the most important thing. We really try on the GoldFish report to present information to you. We have had some criticism about some positions we have taken or some people that we may have had on the show. And I want to, we've had some criticism or some comments that maybe were a little bit, you know, challenging our perspective and really what we're trying to represent here. And I think that the ambassador might want to address that for a moment.
Yes, you know, we heard some questions there and some negative comments about one of our guests that came around. And basically, the way that I look at it, people has to realize it, is that I'm not here to debate my guests, okay, or to insult them. When they come into the GoldFish report, they are basically inside of the home of the ambassador. And when they're in the home, they are my guests, okay? And basically, I treat my guests with utmost respect. I want my guests, you know, I'm not saying that all my guests, there might be some of them that are deceptive or so on and so on. But at the same time, the GoldFish report is here to open a question to people, to make people think outside the box, okay? And it's very, very, very interesting, okay? To hear, for example, when we had Randy on our program, I spoke with him before, I verified that, you know, some of this information is correct, okay? But at the same time, you know, people say, oh, you know, he's a liar, he's this, how could the ambassador give him support or whatever? I wanted him to give his story here, okay, and explain it to the people so that people could start thinking outside the box and listen to what he has to say. I'm not here to contend him if he's a liar or not a liar. That was not the purpose of that interview. The purpose of the interview was for him to share his story to the people, okay? And by my opinion, I believe that he seems to be a genuine person, and I have utmost respect for him. And I just wish that people should not be so judgmental all the time. And even if it was be that this was a psychological disorder, that it's not happened and he just believe it happened or whatever, you know, either way, it's a story that he told that is worth listening to. You understand? And that's what I want to say, that, you know, I want to bring on a lot of future guests, you know, even some people that people would think probably would be my enemies, but when they come as a guest at my show, I will show them my respect because they're in my home. Okay? But I would like to have their opinion. And that opinion can probably help a lot of people to understand things. And we know that we can move from A to B, and we know that it's exists life in the universe. And he shared his story about that story. And like I said, I have never been in space. And, you know, I believe that he has been, you know. Can I say 100% that he has been there or not? You know, of course I cannot verify that. But, you know, I'm not here to argue that situation. One day maybe when I'm face to face with him, we can do other verifications. But at this point of time, I think he's a nice guy, a credible guy, and has a good story that make people think. And that's what is important in the GoldFish report, is to make people think. Okay, so that is what I wanted to address on that. And you know.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. That's such a very good point. And, you know, we aren't here to be judge, jury, or executioner to anybody. We really just want to provide information and let people make their choice for themselves. And our friend and colleague and has joined us, Sherry, the smiling one. We want to see what, thanks for joining us, Sherry. And what would you like to, I'm sure you have, what kind of comment would you like to have?
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you. I was actually doing something that I can't tell you about right now, but had to do with all the stuff we're working on. You'll find out soon. But on the topic of today, first of all, I have to really thank the ambassador. And this is why one of the reasons I'm participating, and I know a lot of you guys are participating, is he is so compassionate and understanding and open. And that just really aligns with me, and I know with us. I vibe with that. It's like, you know, being angry and resisting and, you know, with other people and other human beings just is not really going to get us to where we want to go. And so on the topic that you guys were discussing, I think we almost have to look at this divide and conquer. This is a game. This is a total game by the people, we'll just call them at the top, even though they're not going to be there much longer. They'll be down here helping us, is that they know how to play this game, and they know how to have people pin against each other. And it's all in all the different categories that we've discussed, under religion, under race, under, you know, gender, etc. There was a link that Louisa had sent me the other day, and we were just talking about having a discussion on this topic, and one was actually a YouTube video that was taking place in supposedly Paris about the Muslims and the Muslim problem, you know, in Europe. And they just make it sound like, wow, they're taking over and they're just really violent, and it's like, oh my gosh. Well, I sent it right away to, I mean, I had my own thoughts, which I'll share, but I sent it to my friend who lives in Paris, and she said, this is really asinine. There's not a problem here. I live here right in the heart of Paris. And she raised the same questions I did. We don't know where that videotape was taped. We don't know when it was taped. It could have been another country. It could have been actors, because they do that too. Okay? A lot of times they'll put actors in place. I know it sounds crazy, but it's done. It's called propaganda. And they've been doing it for quite some time. So, you know, it's like, we have to always question, but the point is, don't fall for their game. Whenever you feel like, whoa, gosh, those people are bad. Yeah, they're doing bad things. I don't like those people. It's like there's something wrong. Stop, think. Someone is inciting you to do that. You know, when we go talk to our neighbor and our loved ones, we get along great. I mentioned before that I was at the Women's Peace Summit in October of 2002 at the United Nations, and we also had meetings outside of the United Nations. And there were women spiritual and religious leaders from all over the world. And one of the workshops, and it was a small group of people that was headed up by Jane Goodall, you know, the late, great, lovely human being that she is, Jane Goodall. And in the workshop, I stood up and I asked a question. And what it was, it had something to do with how about if we get Lily, who's Palestinian, together with Varad over here, who's from Israel, and how about we make some peace initiatives between the Israelis and the Palestinians, starting with these women and us supporting them. And they started at that moment an initiative. They looked at each other. I mean, we're human beings. When you look at each other and relate with each other, there's no problem. We don't have, it's just don't fall for the game. And let's just all be aware and be compassionate, like the ambassador is always sharing with us, to be open-hearted and open-minded about other people, respecting all, people of all walks of life. Thank you.
Sherry, that was great. I mean, you're so much more than your sweet smiling face. And we couldn't imagine doing GoldFish Report without you. And we're so happy you were able to make it. We know everybody's schedule is so tight, but you're absolutely right. And, with your experience and having worked in the media for so many years, you know how it works. And, you can really help our viewers really understand that this is, you have to really dissect it. And it's really almost like, Hollywood in a sense, in a sad way, right? Is that what you're saying?
Right. You're right, Louisa. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what we really want to ask our viewers to do, because we're getting close to the end of our show now, our report, is if you want to do something for yourself to make this world a better place, post our video, repost it, make it viral, make it go all over the internet, post it on all your friends' blogs or websites. Share it in the groups that you join, because we really just want to be a voice of peace, and we want to try to unite people. And we're not talking about the news and the war and all that to continue to propagate it. We're talking about it because we're trying to see through it. We're trying to help people see through it. We're trying to help people understand what they're seeing, so that they don't create more of it. I know that sounds counterintuitive, because everybody talks about the law of attraction. So what you put your mind on, you attract more of. And that's very true. But we also have to realize that, you have to start with what's in your mind to begin with. And if hate is in your mind, that's what you're going to attract. So I think we want to, at some point we're going to have a metaphysical guest, a teacher, educator, come onto our show. We're going to talk with them, and we're going to get a little bit more understanding about metaphysics, and really kind of how putting your thoughts on how your thoughts are energy, and that energy attracts the same kind of energy. And it's really that simple. Although it is more complicated, it is actually kind of simple in a sense. And I just also want to say that I think everybody here has also done the same thing with the ambassador. I mean, we have, in a sense, validated the things that the ambassador has said over many months at this point, over a long period of time, just over a year, in fact. Since the ambassador has come out in public to make this, to announce his mission, and we all really do support what the ambassador is saying, and we wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't really feel that way. We really have no motivation and no agenda other than that we're all people who just want peace in the world, and we want to see, people be more loving to each other, and not so egotistical, not so righteous in your beliefs with all the dogma, because religion has failed us in many ways. It hasn't made the world a better place. Regardless of which religion you're in, it has tried. There's ways religion has tried to do that, but I think in many ways religion has failed in trying to promote what it's trying to promote. It hasn't accomplished that because, like the ambassador said, it's really there to divide us and to be an obstacle. So with that, I'd like to say that I wanted to remind our viewers that Wednesday we're going to have Kev Baker back on from Truth Frequency Radio, and Friday we're going to have Rob Potter on to discuss the tachyon healing technologies that have been brought to the planet, I would say, from other sources that are from beyond. And we don't really know, but it's technology that we haven't seen before, and we certainly would like to find out what it does and find out more about it and how it can really help people. So I think that I have said all of my announcements that I need to. I want to ask Sherry if you have, and anybody else if they have any final comments, but I'm going to go to Sherry first.
Thank you, Louisa.
Sherry, a little time.
Yes, thank you, Louisa. It was something that I wanted to mention before, but I think because things are so complex and there's so many layers and there's so much propaganda and we don't know what to believe and what not to believe, and probably the majority of it is not true. That's where we have to start going inside. We have to start getting grounded, doing our meditation, whatever it is, because we have to start going inside for the answers. We have to tap into our intuition and tap into our love and get more in tune with that, because otherwise it's near to impossible in the universe that we're living on, the planet that we're living right now, to get to the core of the answers. So I think that's part of our challenge, but I think it's part of our responsibility to really start tapping into our own intuition and inner knowledge. Thank you. So I think Steve had a comment.
Did it again?
Yes.
I'm the goldfish today.
We can
I'm the goldfish today. Okay.
Thanks, Sherry. Thanks, Sherry. That was beautiful.
Steve,
yeah. When the ambassador mentioned that when he invites people into his home, he treats them with respect. That is such a human quality that is universal, and it's such a beautiful thing that I think we forget when we think that we're divided, which we're actually not. I'd just like to mention Israel because I was there a few years ago, and I was invited into Jewish homes and into Palestinian homes, and I was treated also with the greatest respect. But I know that they don't necessarily. I'm not speaking for everybody there. It's a cauldron for racial tensions, that country. So they don't necessarily do that to each other. Now, my thinking is that, yes, I was speaking to a Jewish man. He was an older man, and he remembers that before the propaganda came up in the press and everything that was there, they were also manipulators. They lived side by side with each other. They had no problems. They grew up and played on the street together. Those were his memories. And so that's I just don't understand. So it's this thing about welcoming people into their homes with respect. Also, as soon as disclosure happens that we're finally, people understand that we're not alone in the universe. Our home is our planet. We have cultural differences and they're beautiful. We should respect that. But the geographic borders the political borders, I should say, are artificial. So as soon as we're living on the same home, we should treat each other with respect. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Steve. I'm unmuted now. That's good. Radagast, did you have any final comments?
I just wanted, I have a YouTube presence before I became part of Global Mission of Peace. Of course, first I joined True Vision of Peace. And some people have said, gee, you seem like this and that, and then you join True Vision of Peace. You must be under the ambassador's spell or something, or I lost my mind. And I just want to say that one of the things that I am always pleased and amazed by is by his compassion, his love, and his forgiveness. And I consider myself no slouch in the compassion and forgiveness and love department. And to say, it's almost like in my musician, it's like I consider myself quite a capable bass player, but sometimes I'll see another bass player and go, whoa, that boy can play or that girl can play. Well, when it comes to love and compassion, when I get, I speak to with the ambassador and, share about a lot of things, I am always kind of like, whoa, this guy can love. I mean, that's one of from day one until now, his love and compassion and his ability to forgive has always been what I think has been his most stellar qualities. They're consistent. And obviously these are qualities that you don't find in a common person or somebody that has anything hidden in their character. These are the qualities that are kind of, I'm not going to call him a saint, but he might have more love and compassion than some people who've been called saints. And that's my final words for today.
Thanks, Radagast.
One last thing I wanted to state. I had a talk today with the Hong Kong gang that is in China. And I spoke with the Red Dragon also for some updates, and I wanted to share them because this is wonderful testimonies. I can't wait to bring the latest groups that is touring for China on the GoldFish report to give their testimonies of their experiences. One of the persons, a lady called Jackie, has been having multiple of back surgeries and problems with her foot and her ankle. And now after the treatments, her foot is straight. She's working perfectly. Her pains are disappearing. And she has like a new life, and she's enjoying with her husband for many, many years, celebrating their anniversary. And they're traveling through some beautiful landscapes in China. And they've been taking photos. We're going to share photos on our webpage from this with all the other people that has been there, the champions from the Global Mission of Peace that has gone to China and do all these different things. And also we have Anna and Sharon, I think her name is, that is right now also in China and doing the full 7 days treatment. And last time I heard, it was, I think, if I'm not wrong, after 2 days of treatment, she has lost 6 kilos of weight. And supposedly she's doing perfect, and she's very energetic, and so I think even she has even lost more weight now today, and so it's a lot of things, amazing testimonies of the people that is coming and finding healing. And this what I wanted to say is that it's important. You talk about the projects. It's like myself. I have my health issues. And basically, my health issues make it hard to do my project, to do my work. And I think to be able to do our project in the best manner possible, we need to heal ourselves so that we can have the power and energy and health to do the work. So the Red Dragon was implementing that. We should start, making health journeys for all the people that is doing the projects to regain power before they launch their attributes, okay, to go forward. And also one of the China Family Foundations is also opening the doors with facilities and guidance and training in Chinese culture, acupuncture, Chinese medicine, Qigong, and Tai Chi, and Kung Fu, and all these different type of things. And also we have another couple that is there, and they're going to go for the treatment tomorrow. And it's a Spanish couple. And they've been spending some days now at Shaolin Temple as guests, and they've been enjoying there. And they see some photos from the temple when they were together with the kids when they were training. And I think it's amazing. These amazing journeys that these people have done, and I feel so happy that when we started this movement, it was a message. And now at this time, people have crossed all around the world from all parts of the world, and basically finding healing, spiritual enlightenment, and a brother and sisterhood, which is so amazing. And these people have been taking care of each other, lifting each other up when they were down, and supporting each other. And, I think this is a wonderful testimony for humanity that these people actually have done. As I would like these people to come on also, hopefully maybe I know that on Wednesday they're finishing the treatment. And so maybe in the end of the week, maybe we can bring them in on the end of the GoldFish report on Friday to explain about their healing process of doing the whole program. And giving their testimonies, how it was and how their experience has been. Okay, and I think that's the last thing that I wanted to talk about today, which is the great positive things. Also, I want to thank all the people in True Vision of Peace that has been sending me updates in relation to for the GoldFish report about things that they would like to hear about and know about and want to share to others, like John Lemire Vince and others. I want to thank you guys for bringing attention to different things. And I really appreciate all of you guys' hard work in the Global Mission on Peace and the symposium. And, you know, it makes my life worth living to have you guys around me and struggling together with me, so I'm not alone in the struggle. So I really want to thank you all for that. And with that, I say thank you for today.
That is so sweet and thoughtful. This is why we do this with the ambassador, because it matters to him, and you know we know that it does, and we know that he appreciates everything that everybody does. And so, you know, before we end the show, we're just about over. I wanted to ask Sanjay if you had any final comments that you wanted to make.
I do, and like you guys have echoed, Ambassador is just like people got the spell. It's a spell of love. It's a spell of compassion, right? He blushes when Radagast says nice things about him. This guy is more than a human, right? As Radagast said, like some people, when you praise them, they get ego. Well, he blushes. He changes color. This is why we're here, because we all have the same passion. We want to see peace in this world. We want to see peace in this universe. We actually are doing service to humanity, and this is what he's teaching us. He's teaching us, he's empowering us, right, to stand up and do something, right? Also, with those that aggress on the website, stop being coward, come up, come through our GoldFish report or the Global Mission report page or the CBC page. Talk to Radagast, join us in the symposium, join us in the training, where you can actually have a face-to-face chance of saying what you got to say instead of hiding behind comments, right? If you got to say something, let's just come up. I mean, hey, worst case scenario is going to happen is we're going to put the guns down and hug one another. That's the worst thing that's going to happen.
That's right, Sanjay. And, you know, I saw a post on Facebook the other day, and it was a little Israeli boy next to a little Palestinian boy with their arms around each other, sitting next to each other. And it said, what war can do, love can do better.
Yes, I shared that today.
Was that from you?
Yeah.
I love that. And I have to say that, you know, I think because we're not sitting here singing Kumbaya. I mean, really, the ambassador is a very genuine man, and that's the first thing I noticed about him when the first time I heard his voice. And he's very sincere and very genuine. And I think that we're all, you know, you can sense that. And the message is one of love and peace. So how can you know, really you go wrong with that? One way I've gone wrong is by maybe being overly protective of the ambassador. I certainly have gotten myself into trouble doing that because I know the man, and I know that that he's very genuine and sincere. And it's all of our mission. If we just want peace and you want love, just express it. That's all you have to do. It is that simple. Just express it. And that's it for this edition. That's right, Sherry.
we have to do that, and we have to do what Sanjay's doing right now. I think he's outside of the fish bowl. He's thinking outside of the fish bowl, okay? That's another thing. We're working on it, Sanj. We'll be there with you, sweetie.
That's an excellent point, Sherry. That is an excellent point. And with that, that concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report, and we will see you next time.